Hi and welcome to the Getting Started video for DataTier.net. In this video I'm going to show you how to clone or download the Juggler shared repo, which includes DataTier.net as well as all the programs you see here, plus a whole lot more. First thing we're going to do is set up Visual Studio to run the program, and then we're going to install the DataTier.net database into SQL Server. I'll be using SQL Server 2017 Express, but you can use almost any version of SQL you wish. After that, we'll install the project templates into Visual Studio. You can use Visual Studio 2017 or 2019. I will be using Visual Studio Community Edition 2019 because it just came out about a month ago. And then we'll create our very first DataTier.net project. In future videos, I'll do some tutorials and deep dives, but I want to make this as fast as possible. And this takes about 10 or 15 minutes to set up, but then after that, you only have to do this once. Once you set up your database and your project templates, then it's only a couple of minutes to create your project. So, sorry, let me go back, let me exit PowerPoint and go to, this is the Juggler shared repo. See if we can see that a little bit better. I'm going to, you can pause, you can clone or download the video. I'm going to assume you've already done this for the rest of this video, so if you have any Git questions, please refer them to the GitHub community forum, as they could answer better than I could. So for the rest of this video, I'll just assume you have the Juggler shared repo on your hard drive somewhere. Here's the solution. I'm going to open it up in Visual Studio 2019. The first thing you're going to need to do is set the client project as your startup project. I already have it set, but otherwise you'll get an error. You cannot run a class library. I'm paraphrasing. Alright, and now you'll notice a little setup guide launches. This kind of gives you some instructions on how to get started, but basically what we have to do is you have to attach the DataTier.net database or create it manually, and then set up your app.config file with the connection string, and we'll go ahead and do that now. So I already have a database by this name, so what I'm going to do is just create a new database. And I'm going to call mine.demo. You of course don't need to do that. And you can place your database wherever you like. If you want to accept the defaults is even okay. I just prefer to have I have a folder called CData that I prefer to use, but I don't like to hunt for where my databases are located. And I'll just go ahead and hit OK there. The next step you only have to do if you created your, I'm sorry, I skipped one step, pardon me. Your databases are located in the Juggler shared repo at this location here. If you want to see that, if you want to pause that for just a second. Now if you're using SQL Server 2012 or higher, you can just attach this as I mentioned, but we're going to, I've already created it, so I'm going to go ahead and execute the tables and the store procedures. I'll just do one at a time. Make sure you have the correct database selected, because I took out the use database statements because Azure SQL doesn't support use database, so I wanted to try to make it work on Azure SQL. And next we'll go over to our store procedures.sql, and again these tables are, you only have to execute these scripts if you did not attach. So if you attached your database, the scripts are already installed. So at this point we have the database created. I'm going to skip one little step and just show you a very quick preview of, let me minimize everything because I get confused if I have too many things open. I'm going to just run dbcompare just to show you the, to make sure the database I just created is up to date. You won't have the master database to go by like I do, but these connection strings, I'm kind of cheating because these connection strings were already set, but there just to show you that the database was up to date. If there are any schema differences, and dbcompare comes free with the shared repo. So now we're going to launch the connection string builder to connect to the database we just created. So I'm going to type in my server name. And my database name is datatier.net.database, and mine is .demo. Yours, of course, should not be, probably. Alright, so I'm going to build my connection string and just test and copy. So everything passes, so I'm going to close this. This used to have a couple of double message boxes, but when you start trying to write documentation explaining why there's double message boxes, you can faster just to go and fix it. So now we have this set. I'm going to close down DataTier.net and open up the app.config file. I'm going to paste in my connection string, and I'm going to say setup complete equals true. And then now we're going to run the program, and we should see test database connection passed. Okay, so now we have the, here's DB compare. Now if you want to launch any of the other programs that appear over here, a lot of people may not know how many programs came in their repo, so I thought I would make it a little easier for you to find some of the other projects. So if you want to open any of these over here, some are more useful than others, but it was a lot of stuff I had dying on my hard drive. So, all right, and also here's the help. You know, if you want to open any of these, if you have Office installed, Word will open, or else the PDF if you have a PDF reader. And now we're going to install the project templates into Visual Studio. The templates are located here in the DataTier.net project templates. Copy the DataTier.net class library.zip to your clipboard. Now I already have this bookmarked in my program, but the location is going to be different for each person by your name. My name is Corby. And if you're using Visual Studio 2017, that would, of course, would reflect that. And here, I already have mine pasted, but here's the full path if you want to copy that, and of course replace your name and version number if you need to, or your name more than likely. I've met 3 in my life, so probably your name's not Corby, I'm willing to bet. But all right, so now you're going to need to open a new instance of Visual Studio to create our first project. So let's go ahead and do that now. Now you probably don't have to scroll down. I have my font really turned up because my vision's not as good as it was when I was younger, and it wasn't that good then. All right, so we have DataTier.net selected. I already have it in my recent list, but you probably won't have that, of course, the first time. You can call your project whatever you want. My typical naming structure is whatever the name of the database or the project I'm working on, DataTier.net.demo in this case. I'm going to just put this in a demo folder so it doesn't show up on my project root. And we will create. Now this is going to create the 4 projects that make up a DataTier.net project, and the documentation has a little bit more about this, but basically we have the object library, data access, and the data access component. If I had it to do it again, I started writing this program about 16 years ago, there would probably only be 3 projects, but it is what it is. So I'm just going to show you one thing. These classes can be removed. Sorry, my dog is snoring and waking up, so sorry you have to put up with that, but I don't have a soundproof room yet. But here is, these can be removed once you build, but just wanted to show you these are only here because the name, so these namespaces, these other projects reference this, so that's why they're here. Now what we're going to do is go over to DataTier.net and create our first project. So I'm going to say new project. Project name is just going to be demo, and I'm going to give it the project folder. Now just to show you the project folder, this still says Rad Studio Code Library Template Class Library because this was called Rad Studio Code Generation Toolkit from 2010 till 2018, and called Data Class Builder.net from 2004 to 2010. So this project is actually about 15 years old now. Okay, so you can go ahead and close this, but we're going to go ahead and browse for the project I just created. It's been on my to-do list to one day read the Visual Studio projects location and open there, but I haven't done that yet. So we'll just open the project that I just created, and the project folder, again, it's the folder above the 4 projects in your template. So if you're ever not sure, that's why I put the help there, because one day I wasn't sure when I opened this up, and I figure if I wasn't sure, no one would know. Okay, autofill child folders. Just leave this selected. All these other folders that are relative to this, just leave this selected and you don't have to do anything. So now all we have to do is add our database. Now I'm going to type in my server name because it's faster. And I'm going to use Windows authentication. I'm going to reload my database list provided you have permission to do this if the connection above works. I am going to choose Stock AI because that's just a little program. It's going to be in the repo eventually, but I haven't had time to do much with it, or it's kind of broken at the moment. It was working, then it stopped. All right, so now we have our database, and I'm not going to go into these others. I'll do some deep dives later where I kind of explain each of these, but if you ever need to set the using statements for any of these folders, you can edit this, and I'm not even going to go into it now, but let's go ahead and build or save our project, and I'll show you what it's doing here. It's actually loading the database schema when you create a project, and the reason is I used to only load the schema when you built your project, but I started looking at some of my past jobs with databases with 800 tables, and my boss was scared to delete anything because the person that wrote it died 20 years ago or something, and he was afraid it would break something that was unfixable. So I understand some tables you may not want to include. So if you don't want to include any tables, just uncheck it, and same with any fields. If there's any fields you don't want to uncheck, I'm not going to go into the creating custom methods or field sets or readers or any of in this video, and we will do that in some future videos. I'm going to include everything, but I want to go ahead and build our first project. Now I just took out an animated reader. I had this little animated reminder to show you to click the include project files button if new files were added. And I finally just realized I can just as easily just click the include project files button for you on your behalf if new files were added, and hopefully it works. It did. This was our first test, so you get to watch it. I thought it would work, but it was just calling a button click event. But so here's our project. I've done this video a couple of takes before, so this is gonna open your solution and read your project files, else you can manually select each project if you had to, but you shouldn't have to. And I'm going to click update project. Now on larger projects, I actually changed the database I used to show for videos, because one of the larger databases, it took a few minutes, and I didn't want to make you sit there and watch this little hourglass for a few minutes. But what this is doing is including about 7 folders worth of files and about 9 or 10 files. And I used to have to do it manually for about 6 years, and then I wrote this little wizard here you see, and this uses the Visual Studio Design Time Environment, DTE is what it's called, and it works really well, and it's got this error suppressor, but it's checking every file in your project. Does it exist already in your project? So it's a little cumbersome in the but there. So that should have included our projects, and we are just going to show you here. This is Cody. Get it? Cody. I have some animated videos coming up with Cody, and that's my Cody voice. So sorry, not a very good voice artist. All right, now I'm going to open up the project that we just created, or actually it's already open. Now it's going to tell me to reload all, because we can close this temporary class. First thing I'm going to do is make sure it builds. Yay. Okay. Now I'm just going to open up one of these classes just to show you, just to kind of give you the very quick tour of the project you created. The class that was just built. For every for each table you have 2 classes that uses partial classes. You have a data class and a business class. The data class is going to be rewritten every time you build, and the business class is only created if it doesn't already exist. So if you need to do any customizations, do them in the business class. And the same as when you create a custom method with DataTier.net, DataTier.net uses the business class to set properties that are intercepted by the data writer to change the store procedure name and things like that. So just always remember, don't put anything in the data class, or else it's going to be lost. And I'm going to give you the very quick tour of the gateway. The gateway, this is now code generated for each method for each table. You're going to have a load method for sure, and if your class has a primary key that's an identity generated primary key, you're going to have a find, delete, and an update. Sorry, I'm not really awake. It's 5 o'clock in the morning for me, so this is my free time. All right, I'm just going to show you one of the gateway classes. Now, I've looked at a lot of code generated code in my life, and I have to say that my code generated code looks better than most people's coding style, so I think it looks pretty decent. But this is basically all the gateway does is call the app controller. It kind of bypasses all this. It's a little easier for in the client to say gateway.deleteAdmin rather than. I'll just show you one of the uses. One of the nice things about DataTier.net is DataTier.net was built using DataTier.net. So if you say gateway equals new gateway somewhere in this project, Sure I have it. Oh, well, let me go back to the DataTier.net. I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong. Copy this to my clipboard first, but sorry, let me go to DataTier.net. So I was saying, having too many things open to me confuses me, but sure, I'm just getting old. All right, I'm gonna just search in this project for this, because somewhere in this project, I think most of the time in current project, not. Okay, so here's the, you just create an instance of the gateway. Here's gateway.findFieldSet, and just to show you how the find methods work very quickly, you can have a, excuse me, if you want to search by the primary key, this is, the primary key is created for you. Else, a field set is a you can pass in a temporary instance of a field set object, and that's how the custom methods, like you say, it'll pass in an instance of a, and I'll show you one of these in future videos. I just wanted to kind of show you, this is all the code generated, that's how you use the gateway. Now the data access component is actually, it's kind of where the stored procedures are actually updated, and I'll see how long I'm doing on my video, so give me 1 second, let me see. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop. We're getting about 16 minutes. I don't want to do too much in one video, but I'll just show you very quickly the data access component, because that's the for each table in your class, you have a reader and a writer created. The writers actually use a base class and a partial class. So the base class is where your standard methods created, and then if you do any custom methods, an override is created. So, and I'm going to show some custom methods and tutorials, and I'm going to create a full walkthrough for creating a Visual Studio package that launches. This is one other project that comes in your repo. You may notice I am a regionaholic. You're supposed to say, hi, Corby. I don't actually go to meetings. That's for quitters. But I have regions here, and if you ever need to do anything, like you won't need to do this, but let's just say you wanted to private bool, something, create a property, and so as you can see, the indent kind of gets messed up when you create from a template, and ever since Roslyn and Visual Studio 2013, the Roslyn compiler doesn't like regions, and I'm the only one that uses it, so Microsoft doesn't care. But you can deal with the indentation and fix it if you want, or leave it if you want. It doesn't matter. At least everything compiles and works. I think this is a really cool alternative to Entity Framework. And there is one last thing we have to do, and I really messed up, but I'm going to show you how to fix it real quick. Let me go back and run DataTier.net. Sorry. Just because I forgot to do one last thing to show you, and it's actually really cool that you used to have to do manually. And I'll just open the project. Here's how to open a project if you ever, this might be useful for you. Sorry, I didn't ever show that. And I am going to build again, because now this time you won't have to click the include project files if you build unless new files were added. So this is, sorry I'm going a little bit long, but I just forgot to mention, there's a lot of, the documentation does a better job, and when I make videos, my brain goes on tangents, so I'll end up talking too much, so I'm trying to just finish this video. And okay, here's the one very important thing that I forgot to show you. After you build, click the storeprocedures.sql button, and this will open up and make sure you have your database selected. And I'm going to execute all these store procedures we just created. Now, just to kind of show you a few, excuse me, I can't talk this morning. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. Let me refresh my database list. Okay, and I'll just open this up. And here's all the tables that are in your data. Excuse me. Let me go to Stock AI is the database I was using there. And here's all these store procedures that were just created from when we built. Now, a few of these already had some custom ones because I had worked on this database before, but all the ones that already existed, it does you'll notice it does the if exists for each store procedure, so it's actually dropping and recreating all your store procedures. And then now, in this version, if you create a custom method, your custom methods are also updated. So there's a bunch of I worked on this for about every minute I was awake for 6 months from Thanksgiving till April to get all this out. So hopefully somebody at least tells me they hate it, because nobody can even find it yet. But I think DataTier.net is a pretty cool alternative to Entity Framework, and I'm the only one that's worked on it so far, and there's 90,000 people in Microsoft to build Entity Framework. So I'm hoping if I give it a little bit more time with some smarter people than me, DataTier.net can be really cool. So all right, thanks for watching, and I'm going to stop this, and I'll make some other videos later.